Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. I have a figure here that I am super excited to review. It's one that I was unsure if I was actually ever going to get because the prices are a little steep for it, but I was lucky enough to recently bid on it in an auction setting on eBay and I did win it, and I honestly can say that it is beautiful and I am super happy that I did win it. This is the Favorite Company Baryonyx, and it is awesome. It's one that I was really excited about when I initially saw the figure in some promotional images, but it's just been so elusive for me. It's been pretty expensive, as a lot of these Favorite Company figures are. I'm not positive if this one is a limited edition, and that's what causes it to be more expensive, but overall it was definitely a little pricey. But I was lucky enough to, like I said, find one in an auction setting, and I was able to get it a little bit cheaper. So unfortunately, if you do want to buy one of these by the end of this review, you may end up having to pay a little bit more money. I think they're probably about $50 for this, which is a beautiful figure, but being that it is just I think a PVC figure, it's pretty much very similar and the same to that Spinosaurus and the Archaeopteryx that I had reviewed previously from Favorite Company. It's pretty much that same thing, and those figures are only like 12 bucks. Maybe 13. So for this to be about $50 is a huge jump, and I can only assume it's probably due to it maybe being a limited edition or something along those lines. I again am not positive, but regardless, this Baryonyx looks awesome, so let's get a closer look at it. So starting up here at the head sculpt, you can see that the head sculpt looks awesome. It truly does. There is a little chip of paint above the eye area on mine that I definitely don't think should be there, but it's not the end of the world. I can live with it, and I could probably touch that up so that you wouldn't even notice it anyway. The overall sculpting of all the small minute details looks fantastic on the head sculpt. You can see the nostrils are beautifully sculpted right there, and the inside of the mouth actually looks really good. You can see all sorts of nicely done detail and sculpt in there, and it's primarily like a pinkish coloration. You can see the tongue inside there and everything. The teeth are a little sloppily painted, but it's not anything terrible. You can see for the most part, for how small the teeth are, they look okay, but again, there's a little sloppiness to the mouth, but it's not anything that's off-putting about this figure. I think the inside of the mouth is actually a very realistic coloration with that kind of a pinkish flesh type tone, and I think they've done a great job of picking the inside of the mouth as far as the coloration that should go in there goes. They did pick that pretty much perfectly, in my opinion. It's got that beautiful hooked jaw that we know that this dinosaur did in fact have, and you can see that the sculpt work as far as the skin texture goes looks really nice. Even the detail around the eye looks beautiful, and the eye itself is painted perfectly, and it's painted perfectly on both sides. I really like the eyes. I think they look fantastic. It makes the entire head sculpt just look so much nicer than having somewhat sloppy eyes, because they're painted so perfectly. It really puts the entire thing over to me as far as just realism goes and how beautiful it looks. You can see it's got that nice little crest up there on the top of the head, which is a little bit of a brighter coloration of a yellow than you see down here on the lower part of the body. And the actual jawline you can see is that yellow, but it tends to taper off into almost like a light, pale, creamy, like whitish type of a white. It's a very strange coloration, but it does taper off into a lighter color right there, which is pretty much the underside here as far as that coloration goes. But it looks great the way they've done that. It really naturally transitions into that coloration, so they've done a very good job overall as far as the paint goes. As you start to come back the neck, you can see very nicely done sculpt work and detail all over the place. The skin texture looks fantastic, and you can kind of see the skin bunching up here in the neck as the dinosaur has its head turned a little bit there to the left, and you can really see that motion playing out in the sculpt of the dinosaur itself. As you move down into the shoulder area, you can see the shoulder blade nicely elaborated from the skin. The arms look beautiful. It's got that trademark Baryonyx claw there, and the claws all look to be painted very nicely, and all the paint appears to be applied very naturally and realistically. I like the crease here in the arm, the way it's reacting, and the musculature here in the arm reacting beautifully to the overall movement of the dinosaur. And even right here in the stomach, you can really see, just get an idea of the movement of the dinosaur throughout the way the body is kind of reacting to it. It just really kind of tells a tale through the sculpt as far as the way the animal is moving. And again, that beautiful skin texture continues. The overall appearance of the skin looks pretty much what I would expect on a dinosaur like this, and I think it looks really nice. You can see the skin kind of pulling here as this leg is stretching it back. Coming up here, the hip bone is present, and you can see some nice musculature here in the leg as you run down into the feet. Feet look to be sculpted pretty darn nicely. The nails look pretty good. They're just a grayish coloration, but they do look nice. And again, they've done a very good job of including all the nice musculature, like the musculature here in the calf muscle and everything. And then coming up here, you can see a few skin folds right behind the leg. And then you run out the length of the tail. Very nice skin texture the whole way out. And the overall scaling and look of the body and the skin looks fantastic. And the paint looks really nice. I like that yellowish color. I think it really makes it look very natural and real, but so flashy. And then you've got this like light brown that is kind of splotched throughout the body. And again, it's very beautifully and very naturally applied, and just in general looks like body color and not paint. So they've done a great job overall on the paint and sculpt. And then again, looking at this side, we already looked up there at the head. The head sculpt looks fantastic. As we run down into the neck, you can see that there are less folds of the skin because the dinosaur is turning its head away from this side of the body, so it would be stretching the skin. Beautiful attention to detail there. The arm is a little more relaxed, it looks like, on this side as opposed to the other side, so you don't see quite as much going on here with the inside of the body right behind the arm, right in this general area, as there was a little more happening on the opposing side. And then you run back into the stomach. You can again see all the very nice skin texture and that beautiful scaling as you run into the stomach area. And this leg here, you can see really pushing up into the skin of the stomach. Great attention to detail there. The hip bone is nicely elaborated on this side as well. And then there's that very nice musculature once again in the leg, the bulging calf muscle, as this dinosaur is putting all of its weight on this leg. So the muscle here in the calf is really bulging quite nicely there. And then you can again see the foot sculpt on this side. Also looks really, really good. And then that beautiful tail sculpt the whole way out. That nice skin texture runs the entire length of the tail. The underside is primarily just a creamy type of a coloration, but there's such a beautiful, very natural transition from that yellow to that cream that really makes this figure just look so realistic as far as its paint goes. And it does have a base, and you can see the base itself is pretty much just a little rocky area that it's walking on. There isn't much to it other than just one solid color of gray, but the overall sculpting of it does look quite nice, and definitely has a very nice presence to it as far as the overall appearance of this figure. Now this figure is actually removable from the base. You can see the base by itself has a little peg sticking up, and then of course you've got a little hole here on the bottom of the foot. You just have to line those up, slide him on there, and he sits perfectly. You can also move the base around so you don't have to technically stand him there. I don't know why on earth you would want to put him that way, but he can move around on the base a little bit. But once you have him in place, he stands really quite nicely. As far as the size goes on this Baryonyx, from the head to the tail, you are looking at about 9.5 inches or 24 centimeters. And for a height, I think the highest point would probably be the tail, so you're looking at about 4 inches or 10 centimeters. And to the top of the head, about 3.5 inches or 9 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is the Papotyrannosaurus Rex, and you can see that he is quite a bit larger than this smaller favorite company Baryonyx, but this again shows you the size. It shows you that it's a pretty good sized figure, honestly, but he's not huge. He's not one of the larger figures out there. I'd say maybe a little smaller than like a medium sized figure, or right around the medium sized range, but he's pretty decent sized. Considering the Rex is a fairly large figure, it should give you a pretty good idea that this Baryonyx is no slouch, and he's not that small, but again, not huge. So this Baryonyx is really quite awesome. I thought that there wasn't going to be too much as far as competition goes for the upcoming Collect A Baryonyx this year, but I guess I was wrong, because honestly this one is very, very nice and definite competition for that Baryonyx from Collect A. One of the things I think that will save Collect A would be the fact that theirs is a deluxe, a larger figure, and will be cheaper than this one, because as I said, this is a fairly expensive figure. especially considering the fact that it's very similar to the Spinosaurus, which sells and retails for a much cheaper price. But again, I think it is due to it being a limited edition. So if you do like this Baryonyx, you'll probably have to pay that larger price tag and get a hold of it sooner rather than later, because I'd imagine the longer it's out, the more rare it'll get and the more expensive it'll get. But overall, this Baryonyx is really nice as far as the sculpt goes. I think the sculpt is spot on to what you would imagine a Baryonyx to look like at this point in time, as far as what we believe it looks like. I think the paint applied all looks really nice and is very naturally applied, and it's a potentially realistic coloration. It's nothing overly flashy or something I couldn't see a dinosaur like this being. I think the paint looks really good overall, and it's definitely a good choice as far as the paint scheme, especially for a Baryonyx. Again, the sculpting of the small details like the inside of the mouth and the eye socket area, all of the skin texture and everything on this looks great. It's definitely a very, very nice looking Baryonyx, and I would definitely recommend this to anyone that is interested in purchasing it, because it's really, really beautiful. So if you do want to order one, I will throw a link in the description to someone on eBay selling it, because honestly I'm a little unfamiliar with places to buy favorite company figures. I usually just pick them up on eBay, as that's normally probably the cheapest place you're going to find them, sadly, or at least that I know of. If any of you know of a cheaper place, please let me know in the comments section so I can check that out for myself. But like I said, I will add a link in the description to an eBay seller that is selling this if you do want to buy it, because it's definitely a very nice Baryonyx. So go ahead and check the description, head on over there if you do want to buy one, and please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.